Welcome to Taika Translations. My name is Jason Ehlinger. I'm the CEO of Taika Translations, and today I'm going to react to a Pro Interpreters versus AI challenge video. Who translates better and faster? So, without further ado, let's get started.
Artificial intelligence has been threatening everyone's jobs.
No kidding, but that's not incredibly accurate. Not everybody's jobs is getting impacted by AI, but a lot of them are.
Including interpreters. Inaccurate interpretation can be the difference between a good or bad nuclear deal.
At this point, I already listened to this video, and I can understand that the narrator is not human. They just had a script and they're narrating it with the AI bot, which is fine, whatever. But in addition to that, I want to say that a lot of stuff is being affected by AI. And I think it's more impacting the translation side of the coin than the interpreters. But that's neither here nor there. It's just an observation.
So why tested a speech translator called Kudo versus human interpreters to see which better transmits all of the necessary elements for people to understand what they're hearing, including emotion, intonation, completeness, spontaneity, and speed.
Liar's job
To test out if AI is really better than a human. Let's begin. Test 1.
Here we go.
We gave Barry and Kudo a 2020 speech from King Felipe of Spain. The speech is about the COVID crisis.
Speech during the COVID crisis, that was a pretty emotional. I actually saw this speech by the Spanish president back then. And that was really important that he connected with the people on the level of emotion. So I think that was really, really a good idea that they picked out this specific video for this test.
Subjects will focus on emotion.
Because of the pandemic. I parachuted into this not knowing anything about the speech when it was given. In this speech, what matters more is the emotion and the ability to connect with the audience, because he's speaking to the citizens of Spain at a very difficult time when many have suffered loss, are going through a number of challenges. This reminds us of very deep feelings. At this time, many of you are fighting against the illness and what it has done in your homes. And the words are just the vehicle to get that across.
Now, let's evaluate the speech translator.
I want to point out, I think that he's a pretty good interpreter, but I feel like he could do a little bit better, being a little bit smoother. But again, he did say that he just went into this flying by the seat of his pants. He had no preparation whatsoever. So it's probably always going to be like that.
Good evening. I address you on this Christmas Eve, when we are living truly exceptional circumstances due to the pandemic.
Low feeling.
In terms of content and completeness, the AI did very well.
Yeah.
The virus has broken into our lives, bringing suffering, sadness, or fear, altered our way of life.
It struggled with word choice in a number of areas. It referred to an overflow in some hospitals.
Nailed it, yeah.
And also overflow in some of our hospitals.
Now, what that was referring to is at that time when hospitals were overwhelmed, when the king was recognizing the healthcare workers for the work that they had done. And he recognized the tremendous physical and emotional burden that they were carrying. And the AI translated that as the great emotional charge and physics on their backs.
That was not good. That was really bad.
If you know Spanish, you can go back and figure out how it is that the AI determined to use those words. But obviously, that is borderline nonsensical.
Yeah.
If you look at what the speech-to-speech translation produced, it was by and large quite accurate.
Yeah.
However,
I think maybe he could have said quite literally accurate, because it could be translated very literal, but not necessarily accurate in the sense that it relayed all the full meaning and messaging that the speaker was trying to convey.
It's very difficult to get the sense of what the king is seeking to portray through the AI in its current state.
Test 2, spontaneity.
Okay.
We gave Walter and Kudo a 2021 speech from former senator and now current Colombian president, Gustavo Petro.
The most powerful and non-productive sectors of this country, 20 billion pesos a year. So I took the hour beforehand to look him up, look at some of his videos, just listen to the level of language he employs, listen to his rhythms, listen to, watch his body language.
Now let's see how the speech translator did.
First video.
You are Mr. President in office.
Presidente en ejercicio. En el año de 2019 este Congreso decidió regalarle
In the year of 2019, this Congress decided to give to the most powerful and unproductive sectors of the country 20 billion pesos a year.
The particular strength of artificial intelligence was in capturing those terms of art. Artificial intelligence captured president in office or sitting president, presidente en funciones, minister of finance, ministro de Hacienda, special drawing rights. That's a consecrated term. It's a term that's enshrined that you can find in any number of glossaries. That's the official translation.
Good on that.
And I missed that. Official caucuses as well, that the artificial translation rendered that very clearly, and it pulls those in and did so very well. That's what I felt it was most effective at. And where I felt it had the most shortcomings was because of the pauses.
When El País has a stagnant economy and an impoverished middle class, what this tax reform brings.
Y después,
it is to increase taxes on the productive company, small and medium fundamentally.
absolutamente agresiva, como emitir dinero.
An absolute contradiction and absurdity.
The artificial intelligence creates these little islands, these little bubbles that read like complete thoughts but are not, because there's a flow.
That is one of the big problems that you have with AI, that there's always a disconnect between the true and coherent flow of the entire piece of content, or the speaker, or whoever's relaying the information. That's a challenge that we face in almost every time.
There's a flow that's coming after the pause, and thanks
when it should be one kind of very smooth, fluid flow. And we as humans, that's when we communicate, we understand that it's almost like our brains program some of that stuff out and cause it to flow smoothly, but in the machine it has a hard time.
To an absolutely aggressive social policy, making a gift to the bankers,
and thanks to an absolutely aggressive social policy, how to issue money to give to bankers.
So the pauses in this particular speech seem to throw the artificial intelligence off. You have the vocal inflection, increasing taxes on those who govern Colombia, that allows you to understand there's something else coming. I'm not finished yet. Unproductive capital, those who don't work but prey on the state, on the people, and on nature. Thank you, sir.
Test 3.
Yeah, I really, that guy, the first one they said it was about emotion, but I think in the second video, they said it was more about the literal content. But again, it's the emotion in the content that makes all the difference, especially in those romantic languages like Spanish, what he was speaking in this video. All right, let's go see what they have on test 3.
We gave Barry and Kudo a 2021 speech from El Salvadorian President Nayib Bukele. The speech is highly crafted, prepared, and read from a teleprompter at a high rate of speed.
We are going to make use of Bandesal. I will tell you that it was a very challenging experience for me as a professional interpreter to
190 words
interpret that speech accurately and completely. What you have to do is process that information and extract the ideas to be able to give your listener something that's usable for them to be able to follow from that huge amount.
And that depends on the speaker, because some of these, so this is 190 words per minute. I mean, 150 words per minute, 140 is like a okay rate of speed. But when somebody goes, maybe they're nervous or getting in front of the camera, maybe they've done tons of preparation and they know what they're going to say, but the audience doesn't know what they're going to say. But they're just this kind of animosity maybe, or just nervous energy gets into their speech, and then they just boom, the rate of speed of the words coming out of their mouths just goes berserk. And that's when in particular, that's when interpreters find it challenging to communicate. So they just catch the ideas as much as possible and they communicate it in their own words, which this guy must be really good at what he does to be able to do that.
Or that torrent of words that's coming at you.
Now, let's evaluate the speech translator.
Salvadoran people, good morning. As you all know, the world has suffered an increase in prices.
When I was able to go back and listen to the AI interpretation, what I noticed throughout the entire speech is that it did not miss any of the content.
The cost of these goods increases to match the supply of new dollars, new euros, new yen, and, therefore, that affects world prices. That is why we are experiencing a global inflation that hits the pockets of everything, of all the people in the world, and El Salvador is no exception.
I was taken aback by the artificial intelligence's ability to get all of the content and hold on to it. So in terms of completeness, it was very good and better than what I was able to do at that rate of speed. However, it often had mistakes and challenges with making the syntax, the word choice, and sometimes the grammar in English. Sometimes it would choose words that weren't really the most accurate way, the way a native English speaker would say something. Yeah. It talked about new currency issues.
This inflation generated by the incorporation of new currency issues, usually dollars, euros, yen.
Which was really ambiguous because it was talking about new infusions of cash or currency into the monetary system. And people could confuse issues with problems and think, okay, what's the problem with these new currencies? What is happening is that the process that the professional interpreter has been doing for as long as professional interpreters have been working is to process that information and then serve it up to the listener already processed to know this is what's being talked about. So rather,
and I think that's a really valid point what he just said, because that is the intrinsic or maybe hidden job of the interpreter. It's not only to convert the language, it's to relay the spirit of the words to the audience. And that's why it's so helpful for somebody who's interpreting a language, if they are native in the language that they're interpreting to, because they can understand and feel the wholeness and select the words that convey the deepest and most clear meaning. I find that when interpreters are going from Russian to English or different languages outside of English into English, there's a lot of English is a very concrete, it tries to be very, very bland, clear, like almost boringly clear, or some people would explain it as like harshly clear. And whereas other languages, you can interpret into them, and the meaning, it's a little bit more open, and it relies heavily on the speaker and the context and the words used in the entire speech to be able to truly bring out the meaning. And so that's like what he just said, I think, is one of the biggest complexities in the interpretation and the ability to comprehend, understand, and relay correct information in the going throughout the interpretation process.
Saying new currency issues, I would have said infusions or injections of more cash into the monetary system.
So, for a profession that started with the Nuremberg trials and continues to be used for important meetings and negotiations today, when is it appropriate to use an AI solution?
I would say in informal situations where there is not a high level of consequence for mistakes. I would not trust this in courtrooms. Yeah. I would not trust this in the legal system.
Yeah.
If there is a decision that has to be made, a medical interaction, asylum cases.
Yeah. I don't know that I would trust it for situations that require metaphorical 100%. Language.
That, and what he says with that is vital, because like I said previously, in English, we use a much more concrete and clear terminology for things. Sometimes not. Sometimes we even speak in metaphors, and it just depends on who's speaking and how well versed they are in their metaphors or how they can explain things. But for a large part, in other languages outside of English, there are so many just nuances and lacking of clarities. And it's not bad. It's just the nature of the language and the nature of the people. That's why it's so interesting to get to know new cultures and new people who speak new languages, because it's different. It's a completely different worldview, and it comes out through the language.
That don't catch the figurative meaning.
Do I want to have a high-level diplomat or a president of my country speaking to another president through AI to make important decisions about the future of literally millions of lives? No.
We need to look at it. We need to examine it. We need to find out how we can use this constructively, and how we can use it carefully to aid us and not be afraid of it, because that's no use if we're not flexible. We're eminently in a world where we need to be flexible and we need to be open to new ideas and new ways of doing things.
It is not a replacement, and you have to understand that. And if we're able to understand the power of the tool, we can respect the tool and use it to everyone's benefit.
And I think he hits on a key point right here, because people think that all the jobs are going to be converted to AI, and that's just not true. I heard it explained by one business owner like this, and he said, "Look, during the gold rush, the people who made the most money were the people who sold shovels and tents and wash basins to wash out the gold from the water. Like, those people, they made a killing, and they sold all these products around and related to that, and the people who went out to get the gold, like, so for example, being in this case, everybody thinks that AI is this gold that's going to make all these jobs go away and a very select number of people get rich. And that's just not the case. A lot of companies go out of business. A lot of AI companies that were built solely on AI are going to go out of business. But as a large part, this product, the AI, incredible AI stuff, and I love the AI technology, and we implement it in a lot of different ways, but it's a tool that enhances productivity. It's a tool that can make workflows faster. It's a tool that can give us access to information and combinations of that in so many different ways and make us so much more efficient. But it's not a tool that eliminates humanity, and so many people are afraid of that. But that's just not true. The human is still needed, but the human needs to learn how to use the tools of this day and age to be a more effective, more impactful, more influential, and productive person in the workforce. And that's the key. And we can't just sit back on our laurels and think that we don't have to grow and change and adapt to new ages and new opportunities out there. We have to invest in growing and learning. If you're not learning, you're dying. That's what I believe, and that's what I practice, and which is why I'm constantly reading, constantly growing, and trying to learn each things new, each like this, like AI, and implement those implementations into our organization as a whole, or in different sectors each and every week. But it's not this robot that's going to come over and replace humans. It's an enhancement for growth of humans and the further incredible output that we're going to be able to produce and that we can produce currently with the tools available to us. And it's going to get better and better and better, and it's going to enhance our abilities more and more and more as we learn to use it, as we capitalize on the opportunity that AI provides to us. Oh, that was it. I thought it was going to go further. So yeah, awesome video. I really like the content. I think those guys were dead on. And with their kind of AI helps to their video, I think that was really key on how they explained it. And so I'm excited. Even this morning, I was talking to our chief operations officer, and he was like, okay, this and this and this, these are areas that we're going to use this tool of AI. This is the area that we're going to use this tool of AI in our marketing. We've got these other tools. I think funnel AI is a really cool tool that we might be implementing, like all this really cool stuff. And it just enhances in leaps and bounds what one person could produce in a day to what one, like 50 times, like he can do 50 times or 100 times what he could previously do. But it still requires that input, that person to facilitate the excellent output of the tools. And all of that depends on that person's ability to grow with the new tools that we have available to us. So awesome video. And I look forward to seeing more about what we can do with the implementation of AI in our workflows.